right, today is September 29. It's 10:03. This is the Police Pension Board of Trustees. We'll start with the roll call. Steph Neff, I'm here. Tom Roberson.
Here.
Deidre Thomas.
Here.
Buzz Eddy.
Here.
Dan Kovac.
Here.
Okay, moving through the agenda. Deidre had passed out for the approval of the minutes. We have a May 7, June 11, June 25 of this year. Have y'all had a minute to review those three sets of minutes?
Excuse me. I'll move for approval. Yeah, I'll second, subject to the little spelling changes, Deidre, that we talked about.
And for clarification, that's for all three, May 7, June 11, June 25?
Actually, June 25, she got it right.
So your motion was for all three sets of minutes?
Yeah, I'm
We got a motion by Dan, second by Buzz.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor to approve the three sets of minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries to accept all three sets of minutes. Moving into old business. As previously stated in the previous meetings, the unclaimed funds from previous members that are still retained in the plan. We have 4 members that still have monies in those plans. We need to try to get to them. In the last meeting, Deidre had brought up a section that she was able to find, 18.06, which is your attachment C, procedures for unclaimed benefits, and I'll just read it for the record. If the board is unable within 3 years after any benefit becomes due to a participant or beneficiary under the plan to authorize payment because the identity or whereabouts of such person cannot be ascertained, the board may direct that such benefit and all further benefits with respect to such persons shall be forfeited and all liability for the payment thereof shall terminate. I took that information and I sent it over to Russell Van Sickle, asking if that section would apply, and his response was attachment D, which says applying section 18.06 may be feasible depending on the circumstances. Let's identify the accounts at issue, including the ages of the persons with unclaimed money, the length of time the monies have gone unclaimed, and the efforts the board has taken thus far to locate those persons. I have not responded to that as of yet with the particulars for each individual, which I will do so between now and the next meeting. And that's basically included for an informational item. Is there any discussion regarding the unclaimed money?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When these individuals left the employ of the city, were they given an opportunity to retrieve that money from the pension board as part of their, their exit?
No, they were not, and actually, Russell had brought that point up, that we should start including that in the exit interview packets.
But
when
on
they leave employment.
at least one of those individuals on that list, I believe you had said before that she is aware of it, but she just didn't want to fill out the paperwork and go through the process, correct?
As a matter of fact, she, yes, but also Harvey and Heckman. The only one that is not aware that I know of, which we have sent him numerous letters, is Joshua Seals. But I have spoken to Michael Heckman through Facebook Messenger. I've actually talked to Harvey Gibbs in person and Rebecca Shavers over the phone. And they are aware of the funds, they just don't want to go through the process.
Okay.
Which your idea would probably be a asset to the pension board to start including it in the closing package. What they want to do with their funds.
So none of them are vested, are they?
No.
No, this is all a return of their
Oh,
individual
okay.
contributions.
Okay, any further on that? There is one other item I failed to put on the old business. It was on, I saw it in the meeting minutes. The physician appointment for Stan Pagonis. He did have the appointment. I'm gonna cover the costs later on in the expenses for that appointment. We haven't heard anything back on that from the Dr. Roga. New business, I have the budget for 2021 included, just the same format as last year, attachment E. There's been discussion as far as having actuarials done every year versus every other year. If you remember, a couple years back, we voted to do it every other year, but we have since come to find out the city actually needs an actuarial every year. It would benefit them. Plus, if we don't do a actuarial every year, we have to get a different kind of report. I forget what the acronym is, a GMT or something to that effect, which the cost difference between having an actuarial done every year versus this special report is only, after 2 years, is only $700 and something difference. So I would feel we'd be better financially wise to do the actuarial every year, and that is up for discussion. And Dan, you might have some input on that as far as the special report every other year.
Even if, for Dan, I'll throw it out for Dan's comment, but even if it was significantly more financially, it just gives us a better peace of mind going forward that we've had an actuarial study done every year. I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's
Tom?
just part of the expense of running the fund.
So if you look at my chart, the only increase I've added in really is the quarterly fees, because they seem to be in an upward fashion over the past 5 years, since 15-16. And I tried to find it, the police pension revenue, the 185 plan, has steadily been growing. Those are the actual numbers up until 2021. The 79,708.89, I don't know where I got that from. It is such a finite number. I got it from somewhere though.
Yeah, that was my comment, is what's the backup on that?
I believe it was sent to me by Stephanie as a forecast, and I went back to look at it, and with all this hurricane stuff, I kind of lost track of where I got that from. But it looks like we've had an increase of average of 3% to 4% over the last 5 years in that fund. And as you know, 58,000 of that goes straight to the city, 58,434 to cover some of their costs towards our pension.
Yeah, I was confused by that down in the corner. Goes, what city? City Gulf Bridge?
Yeah, the city actually gets that to pay towards their portion of our pension. So the excess funds for this year were like 19,000. So the 77,000 minus the 58,000 left the excess funds of about 19,000 to be distributed amongst the pension members themselves in that accrual plan that we just created an ordinance over.
Is that a percentage number of the collection, or is it
Insurance policy, insurance premiums?
it's insurance?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's
Car insurance.
insurance tax that's made for municipalities for fire and police.
No, I'm sorry. The
58,
58,000
it's a set number.
is it just a flat number per year?
Yes, that's the maximum they can take from that portion of money.
The legislature passed a rule that said any funds beyond this number have to be used for new benefits.
Yeah, and that's where we kick it back into the thing. I've got I don't want to interrupt, but I've got a number of questions on your budget.
Sure.
Just at the top, the medical exams. We know what skipping ahead to your expense on Patronus. I mean, that was $3,000.
Yes.
And I know it goes to last year, it doesn't come to this year. But, you know, I'm wondering if we should anticipate any more with regard to that case. I don't have a good answer to that, I just asked.
Because there is one doctor lingering yet.
Yeah. Just, I'll move on with it and we can discuss them all. Legal fees, there's legal fees right now of $300. So do we need to add something for legal fees?
Yeah, because these are items that we haven't had to entertain in the past,
Right,
since the inception of the program, really.
yeah. And yet, you know, we've got this case that I presume is continuing,
I believe so.
and so
Well, that's-
therefore, I'm sorry.
One way to get to an answer to Dan's question is, where did the money come from for the medical exams that we've had to date and the legal fees?
I would have to check on with Shelley to see which account they actually came out of,
Yeah.
because we
Well-
don't have it budgeted.
Whether
Whether
there's
just,
some kind of contingency fund or some kind of,
Well, I took part of my question out of the next page. It's got the actual expenses to date, the 18,009.
yeah, the 19 to 20.
Yeah. And you've got, where is it? 450 twice for this disability benefit calculation, and then there's another $300 disability case expense. I presume that was legal. So that's where I got my questions to relate back to the forthcoming
and I wonder
budget.
where it comes from.
So we've already spent it,
Yeah.
you know, but, as Steph said, there's $3,200 more to be spent.
Mhm.
I think Dan has a good idea, maybe set an amount in there, and if it isn't spent, just roll it back into the plan.
Yeah.
Zero it
Okay.
out.
I mean,
Just
that-
start
something so
over.
you can keep track of it.
Yeah,
Now, do we have time to modify this? Isn't there a
Yeah.
deadline to get this done?
Yeah, we can modify it right here.
Okay.
So, you know, if there's a second doctor on this particular case, that it could be about $3,000 also for the mental.
yeah, and but here's what it appears to me. If by chance we get the 79 as you believe we will, as revenue, we gotta take 58 off of that immediately, because it goes to the city. That leaves us 21.
That 21 is earmarked specifically for the ordinance for the officers. It cannot be used for anything else.
No, but that's all the money we'd have left to spend on expenses that we know, at least last year, are 22. If I'm understanding this
That's kind of why I
correctly.
wanted to see where the money came from for this year's medical expenses and this year's unanticipated expenses.
Yeah, I would have to check with Shelley to see what actual account it came out of as far as the pension. But the excess funds that you're referring to have to go into the 457 type plan that's allotted for each pension member. It can't go towards any other expenses.
The difference between the 79 and the 58 is not where this 20 comes from.
This 20 up here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No,
Oh, then I'm,
it just comes out of the fund. The budget comes out of the fund. Has nothing to do with the numbers of the revenues.
the fund being
The pension
assets
funds.
the
of the-
pension plan itself, it
Yes.
comes out of those accumulated assets.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But having,
But
having
you
said
take it
that,
out of that pocket and put it into that pocket.
Yeah, having
is
said
what it
that,
amounts to.
what-
If the 21 goes into the fund,
right.
and
Not
then you
really,
take-
no, it doesn't. 21 does not, it goes into the fund, but it doesn't go into the fund. It goes into the fund earmarked for each specific officer. So that money, like say I get $20,000 put in my 457 within the plan.
Yeah.
If you take my money, I still get that $20,000
Oh, I
that's
understand,
earmarked.
yeah. Oh, I understand.
So whether you rob Peter to pay Paul, you still gotta pay Peter back.
I forgot how to do governmental accounting. I just,
Peter and Paul stories go a long way.
Buzz, going back to your question, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure some of it probably, I don't think we used the majority of that conference travel and lodging in our budget last year, so I'm sure most of that went to cover those, the cost of those medical exams. But the rest of it, I don't know.
So I guess taking that point and Dan's point, and the comment that the expenses are gonna come out of the assets of the plan anyway, it might be a good idea to throw a plug number in for medical exams and legal fees for the coming year, leaving open the question of where we're gonna take the money out of the assets of the plan.
Mhm.
But if we do that, so if you take more money out of the assets of the plan, it just means that the city's gonna have to contribute more at the end, once they get the actuarial study, and once they get
That's exactly right.
this, you know, if the 7% assumption that we've got, or whatever the assumption is for our earnings these days, if that comes in short, the city's gonna have to make it up anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, for tracking purposes, I'd feel more comfortable if we put a number in for medical exams and legal fees based on past year's experience.
Well, to piggyback on what you're saying, I think there's more than just the medical fees, because if you remember, there's a possibility of additional legal fees because we're facing a possible appeal of one of the decisions on that medical disability.
Right.
So there's no telling how much that's gonna wind up being, so, yeah, we probably need to probably add some, now, how much does that need to be? I mean,
And then,
who's
back to the point Tom made, if you end up spending less on travel, well, that can be reallocated over to,
Yeah,
but it's not gonna be much.
no, no.
So, do you feel comfortable with based on those comments, that we're not done with this process with either legal or medical? Do you feel comfortable throwing $5,000 into those?
I would feel that would be minimal, yes.
You know, 2,500 in one, 2,500 in the other, and just, we can adjust it later if we
Yeah,
have to?
we can always vote for a budget adjustment through the year if we do have to get more money moved over.
What is that, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I would concur. At this point in time, we really don't know the legal fees. But, you know, his comments are well founded. I mean, heck, you've got a legal fee right now just by sending an email to the attorney.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, I'd put 2,500 in on each and
Well,
do the
Mr.
best we
Chairman,
can.
let me ask a question. Do you, like I said last year, I don't think we used the majority of our conference travel, lodging. Do you foresee us using that in the upcoming fiscal year?
I believe so, yes.
Think so? Okay.
Yeah, actually,
And looking at this budget, that's the amount paid versus the amount we budgeted.
Mhm.
We budgeted 20,260, and we've spent 18,945. Of course, some of that is, well, it's only
no,
two
we
of the,
spent more.
is it more?
Yeah, because. when
The
you
$3
get-
grand.
Yeah, when you get to the
21.
$3,200, it comes up to 22,000.
Yeah.
So
So we're already.
over
Yeah,
budget,
yeah.
if you will, for last year.
Yeah.
I believe we should at least do the 25 per category.
Oh, I would concur. And didn't we send somebody to one of the conferences?
That was the year before last, I think.
We canceled, they were supposed to go, and then we had to cancel because of COVID.
Oh, okay, so that's why it's not in these expenses, understand, okay.
So if everybody will pencil in 2,500 in the medical exams and the legal fees, and then we can discuss the budget further to see if anybody wants or thinks we should make adjustments to the other categories.
On the fees to the League of Cities, is that a percentage of the assets there?
I think so.
Is that what it is?
It may be a function of the assets of the plan,
Under
or it might be the
management.
number of participants, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's a formula.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
You know, comparing 2015's fees of 7,800 to 2021 fees of 11,000 looks like a lot, but you know,
Well, it's
doesn't-
not, because this past year, based upon this over here, we spent 10,670.
The difference
So-
between 10,670 and 11, that's what I was gonna say. is It
Minuscule.
looks like a lot from 15 to 20, but it doesn't look like a lot from one year to the next.
No, I would guess that it is gonna go above 11.
As far as dealing with Stephanie and Shamoon and those people, are you satisfied with the response you get?
Oh, yes.
I mean, I always was. I always thought they did a good job.
Oh, yeah, I think they knock it out of the park.
So
You know, I get responses very quickly from them.
I thought Stephanie Forbes is good at what she does, and Paul Shamoon, I mean, he's come over here and answered questions for us before, so.
Yep.
You wanna bump the 11 up to 11.5?
You're going
Throw something on the table? What's
Yeah,
that?
I'm just kidding you about $500.
Money's burning a hole in your pocket, huh?
I'm good at that. You're
Oh,
one of these-
yeah.
You're one of these accounting types who wants everything to come out right.
Well, you understand the numbers and how it's gonna probably go up.
Well,
anyway.
until you started telling me about the two different pots,
Mhm.
that got me. I'd bump it to 11.5 just for the heck of it.
I agree.
Excuse me. Okay.
Good with the other amounts?
Mm,
Getting there.
2, 6. Okay, I guess that makes total expenditures 26,260.
That's what I got.
That's what I just wrote down too. I'm glad I had that validated.
That's roughly a 30-some% increase.
Yeah.
And you're right, if that comes out correctly, and the 21, which is the theoretical residual off of the 79, goes into the plan, we're gonna take out 26.
Yes. And the residual, as Steph has pointed out, you can't monkey with that.
No, I understand. But the impact upon the assets of the plan,
It would stay even keel. If you take 20 out, leave,
At the end of the year, when the actuarial study is done and the evaluation of the earnings of the plan are done, and the city has to write a check at the end of the year, they're just gonna have to increase the check they write by 5K if everything comes out. the
Right.
way-
Okay.
6,000,
Right,
if everything comes out the way we just
Right.
forecast.
exactly. Okay, I'm good. I move for approval of of the budget for 2021?
so you're making a motion, Dan?
Yes, sir.
All right, there's first,
I'll second,
and a second.
as amended.
As amended, the amounts going down the column, starting with the medical exams is 2,500, 2,500, 60 for the copies supplies, 11,500 for quarterly fees, 1,000 for the monitoring fees, 6,500 for the actuarial, 2,200 for the travel and lodging, totaling out at 26,260. Any further discussion regarding the proposed budget for 2021? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries to accept the amended budget. Moving on to informational items. Attachment K is the letter from Stephanie Forbes and from the actuarial services, saying that the ordinance that we created this past year has been approved And it establishes the excess 185 contributions and how they're supposed to be disseminated amongst the members.
And I think there was a question at several pension board meetings about the actuarial impact of that change on the assets of the plan, and he's saying there isn't any.
Yes.
So it's that 20,000 that you were talking about is gonna be spent on those 457 contributions through that list that Steph created and we approved. So it doesn't, that set of monies is gonna be used for that, and there's no impact on the assets of the plan.
Mhm.
It's just like having an individual 457 or 401.
Yeah. Off to the side.
So, attachment 11 is from Stephanie Forbes, saying the 2019 annual report for the retirement plan and trust for police officers has been reviewed and approved. And then L,
Yeah.
has said that the reports and actuarial impact statements were accepted by the state. It's just a matter of process.
A moment there. On L,
Yeah.
did you see the comment that said the assumption used in the October 1/18 was 7%? The growth assumption. Have we amended that off of there?
We have in the past.
We have.
Mhm.
Do we remember what we brought it down to?
I thought we brought it down less than 5 at one point.
I don't remember.
Because if you go through that comment that they made, I highlighted, we would consider an investment return assumption in the range of 5 to 6 to be more reasonable.
We've actually discussed this before.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the conference a couple of years ago, I specifically asked that question, and they said that they foresaw the assumption rates going more to the 5.5% zone. So it looks like it's getting here a little quicker than they anticipated.
If the year would have ended today, and this is a big round number, the plan would have earned 4%. If it would have ended today, based upon what the S&P has done and the bond index has done year to date. You know, we still got 3 months to go. Well, no, we don't, actually, because the plan year ends tomorrow.
So if we were to lower,
That's informational more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what impact would it have on the members and or the city?
Wouldn't have any impact on the member.
Not the members. But the city, in theory, would be in there for another 1% to make up the difference if that's what the actuarial
And I don't wanna
requirement was.
speak for Samantha or Sheila, but facing that
Right.
now and coming to grips with it is way better than waiting until the second quarter of 2021 and going, okay, how are we gonna do the budget for next year, and then finding out that the police pension fund is in the hole for 30 grand. And you gotta find, it's better to keep the city administration and the city council apprised of the earnings are less than we thought they were gonna be. And so let's start to deal with it now, as opposed to waiting and then going, nobody wants to open that envelope because it's bad news. Let's go ahead and deal with it now.
Yeah.
By looking at reducing the assumption from 7 to 4.5 or 4, and
Yeah,
and
I don't know
then-
where we are. Do you remember, Tom?
I believe we're still somewhere around the 7 or the 6.7. I believe we're somewhere around there.
Our assumption is that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Has anybody got a copy of last year's?
I can go back and look.
And I could, it's at home, I'm sure, but I know we went off of 7.
yeah.
That I know we went off of, but I don't know how much further below we went.
Why don't we put that on the agenda for study it between now and
Yeah.
December, and then look
Yeah.
at that on the next agenda item,
Yeah.
and that way the city can look at the impact that that would have. But I don't know what the city could do. You can't just say, no, it's gonna be 7.
Is it,
Knowing that it's not gonna be 7. You gotta face it.
No, yeah, you do.
is it the city's choice to be 100% funded, or is that our choice as the board?
Well, it's the city, ultimately, it's the city's choice, I think.
So that would
There
be
are
the
lots of
other
cities-
option to lower.
Yeah, but the city, I would always tell us, you know, if it was up to me, I'd always say you gotta be 100% funded. There are a lot of cities that just don't keep up with 100%, and then they rob Peter to pay Paul, as you were
Yeah.
talking about earlier. You know, what we did a few years ago, which was, you know, we were overfunded, and we started taking the excess and using that for the coming year's contribution. You know, hindsight being 20/20, we probably should have left that surplus in there.
Yeah. No.
I've always said that. The good years you just leave in there,
Yeah, well,
pay the same amount.
you want to be president.
Hey, would you vote for me?
I would,
There you go.
yep.
I'll put it on the agenda to keep an eye on the assumption rate. I'll get the information. Deidre can bring the information for that for the next meeting.
Then Sheila had an opportunity to discuss it with Samantha. Sheila and the chief can discuss with Samantha and make sure she's aware of what we're talking about.
Okay.
And I won't be here on the, if you have the meeting on December 10th, I'm not going to be available. I'll be gone the whole month of December.
Okay. Any further on the attachment L? Move right into the next meetings for informational items. These are the proposed meeting dates: December 10, March 11, June 10, which isn't going to happen because that's my birthday. And I'll work on my birthday. And September 9. I'm just throwing it out there.
Don't you always go to Disney World or something like that?
Yes, something like that.
Something like that.
As we move closer into each month for the meeting, I'll send a email to everyone and see if we'll have a quorum and if we need to, we can reschedule.
Thank you, Stephanie. We'll just leave that like that as an informational item. No vote needed on that. Expenses. First one, attachment M, is the $3,000 we need to approve for Pagonis's appointment with Comprehensive Orthopedics. We approved him to go to Dr. Roca. We did not approve a specific amount or an up to amount that I recall. I tried to find whether we did. So in order for us to pay this, we would need to have a motion and a second.
We gotta pay it. I make sure we pay it.
First from Tom, second from Dan.
Second.
Any further discussion regarding this invoice to pay $3,000?
Just, I would just say that, we try to see if there's like an industry standard that maybe we can, you know, if we face this situation again, we'll have a better idea of what parameters to put on the purchase order, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, we had a hard enough time finding somebody to
Yeah,
take the appointment, so.
yeah.
All right, motion carries to pay the $3,000. Next bill is the letter of no impact that we discussed in the informational items. They charge us for that letter. It's $225. Need a motion and a second to approve payment of that.
So moved.
Second.
First by Buzz, second by Dan. Any further discussion paying the $225? Seeing none, motion carries to pay the $225. Are there any trustee concerns?
I've got one. I had mentioned it before, but after hearing some of the things that come to light in this meeting, I'd like to revisit it. Here's what my concerns are. We've already discussed these bills for these disability exams. We know we've got a special meeting to discuss the results of those. And as the chairman alluded, there's also the possibility of another exam out there and then an appeal, depending on what the situation is. It's a lot of money for exams, legal fees. When we discussed this last time, right now, the status is we have one pending disability, and we consider the other one as having been withdrawn. What I mentioned at the last meeting is when we have our special meeting, I feel like we need to address them both at the same time, and here's why. We've already been told if it goes this way, there's a strong possibility the one is going to be appealed. If we allow this to be withdrawn now, and the situation does not come out the way that the applicant wants, if they come back to resubmit the second, now we're starting from square one with the selection of the doctors and the payment of the disability exams. We've already shelled out $300 for an appointment that the guy canceled on the day of, okay? And then if that one doesn't go the way that the applicant wants, now we're facing a potential appeal of that one. I say let's deal with them now. If we have the second disability application along with the first one, we got an exam with this one, we have a refusal with this one. I say let's deal with them, make a decision on both of them at the same meeting, and then deal with whatever comes out of it, whether it's an appeal or whatever, as opposed to, okay, we allow this withdrawal. A couple years later, all right, the doctor that we selected retires or passes away. All right, now we're starting to square one on that as well. So let's put everything on the table and deal with everything at one time and get it all resolved so that 2-5 years down the road, we don't have to come back and revisit this again, and we put the issue to bed at that special meeting.
It was presented as a dual issue to begin with, so I second what Tom's saying, because the first one, you could say it was withdrawn, but it was a refusal to meet as we prescribed as the pension board. So that there in itself negates that claim. It's not a withdrawal, it's a refusal.
So, I hate to say what I'm about to say because it sounds like I'm ready to spend more money. But it seems to me that these legal maneuverings are like a chess match. They're gonna make a move, we're gonna make a move. We're gonna make a move, then they're gonna respond.
Correct.
So, if what Tom is suggesting puts us in a better position, I'm all for it. And if it's a legally defensible position, then I'd support it 100%. But if it doesn't change our position or puts us in a weaker position, we didn't give him due process, or we didn't notice or give him all the rights, and then therefore that extends the appeal period, then we might be penny wise and pound foolish. We're doing something that makes us feel good, but then we've actually hurt ourselves down the road. And I don't know that's the case. So what I was going to suggest, and it sounds counter to what we just talked about, trying to save money, but if Russell Van Sickle could tell us, by consolidating these things and doing away with it, we're putting ourselves in the chess match in a better position, I'm all for it, let's do it. But if it doesn't make any difference, they still have all the rights that they, because his attorney was sitting here taking pains to protect Stan's position. If it doesn't change anything, then all it does is make us feel good. But if it puts us in a same legal position or a better legal position by consolidating everything and dealing with it, and Russell says, yeah, that's a good way to go, then I'm all for it. But it's going to take spending some money with Russell.
send correspondence to Russell to ask him which avenue he feels is best.
What are our legal recourses? That's interesting.
These things can go on for years,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
and that's your point, is
Exactly.
let's finish it.
Are those meetings, are they held in private, kind of like the, or are they still
Yeah.
open?
And it's
They're
kind of a
public.
They're public, okay.
quasi-judiciary type
Okay.
hearing.
Any further concerns? Public forum? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned.
Otherwise, gotta stay out.
Thank you, Ed.
I'll shut the door legally.